Welcome to the only place where real, raw, and vulnerable conversations happen with IFBB Bikini Pros to give you an inside look at their struggles, strategies, mindset, passions, and all of life beyond the stage. This podcast is made to inspire, motivate, and remind competitors and the average gym goer that even the most extreme lifestyles and elite athletes have their ups and downs. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I'm your host, Celeste Rains-Turk, and now it's time for the Confessions of a Bikini Pro podcast. Today, we are speaking with posing coach and personal trainer at Rep Republic Gym in Oklahoma, where they offer monthly free posing clinics for competitors led by local pros and Olympians. This athlete took the 2024 NPC Nationals Overall Champion title and has been competing since 2020. She has competed in 8 shows, 2 of which were pro qualifiers, placing in 5th and 6th before winning her pro card at the 3rd pro qualifier she competed in. And she's now looking forward to making her pro debut later this year. Welcome to the show, Mahsa Rogers. How are you doing?
I am so great. Very grateful to be here.
Good. I'm so grateful to have you. And I know you know I'm going to ask you this. So, what is one thing you do, think about, or maybe a ritual you have right before your heel hits the stage?
Okay. So there's this the answer to this question is there's multiple answers. Number one, straight to business. I go over different posing cues that I need to pay attention to. So that's number one. Number two, not really afraid to admit it. I get the jitters like a little baby chihuahua. Like I'm well aware that it's just energy, it's excitement. So I try to shuttle that into from nervousness to this is excitement. So I tell myself this is energy, just use it. So use it to perform, use it to kind of embody who I want to be and who I've worked on being on stage. And hopefully the judges can feel that. And lastly, I would say just basically, my coach really helped me with this one, making sure that I know that I deserve to be there. I deserve this space. I deserve this time, those 15 seconds that you get as an amateur, which go by like that, right? And just commanding the stage. So that's what I try to channel within myself on top of all the jitters and just hope for the best.
For sure. You know what I think too, over the years of competing, you kind of develop what is going to work for you or what helps. And sometimes well, actually, most of the times, if it's cold backstage, it certainly doesn't help the jitters. It almost just like, for me, it accelerates them. I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't have any control over my body right now.
Right. Right. And there's so much going on, as you know. They're yelling for different classes. There's girls over here hanging out. There's other girls eating. And I want so badly to be one of those girls that is just love and light and they're dancing, they're having a great time. And I'm over here looking at them like, how do you do that? How?
I love it.
Because I've got like 17 tabs open in my head. What's happening? It's a
For
lot.
sure. Yeah. And I think everybody handles it differently, right? And I love how you said that you turn the nervousness into excitement. Um, we really have to because it can be felt. And I don't know if you have this type of experience too, but for me, there's something about that walking out on stage. Like when you walk out on stage, that's when I feel that commanding presence come on. Like there's this moment, when the expediter you're seeing the person in front of you, they're about to finish, and you're just looking ahead towards the judges, and the expediter's like, okay, go ahead. There's something in that moment that switches in me. Yeah, where it's just like, okay, like I'm ready to strut, Like, do you know what I mean? Like that feeling right when you do it, it's like it comes over you.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it. I wish I had like an alter ego name for it, but I don't. She just exists within me and she comes out
Yeah.
each time. There's like, prepping for shows and bodybuilding in general. You peel back different layers of yourself, right? So each prep is different. And one time it might be, this nice girl. The next time it's like, I want to eat these girls for breakfast. And the next time it's like, something different. It's always a
Yeah.
different vibe, right? You evolve as a person, as a competitor, as an athlete, and you never really know what you're going to get until you just go do it, at least in my experience.
Yeah, and it's actually fascinating too the way that you just described that because in watching the pros on stage this past weekend at the Pittsburgh Pro, it was amazing to see the different auras or energies brought to the stage through posing. To see the actual facial expressions, to see the movements. There's a very different energy between someone like Maureen and
Yeah.
someone like Allie. It's just very different. And it's hard to really conceptualize it, but I think we have to embody like what does feel most comfortable for us. And you had said, with maybe we should just talk about the posing clinics actually, because I think it can help us further conceptualize what it means to command the stage. But somebody who looks at the stage and is very scared, like they've got stage fright, maybe this is a huge deal for them to even think about getting on a stage. What would you tell that person about that moment? Like, how would you help them to prepare for it?
Something that actually helped me a lot too, it would definitely be to tell them that once you practice, obviously, let's start from the basics, right? When you practice something enough, it becomes second nature. It becomes like muscle memory, right? So when you've crossed that box off, you should have the confidence of like, okay, I can handle that part, right? So the next is just the stage is scary. This is maybe my first or second time. I'm not well seasoned. I like switching their mindset from there and helping them think that this is not a test. Think of it more as a performance. And that right there helped me and usually does the trick with clients or newer girls that come to the clinic is telling them to think of it more as a performance than a test. So yeah, I
Yeah,
know that the judges, they are looking for flaws. So it can get a little spicy thinking about that. But yeah, just switching that mindset makes it more fun.
for sure. And you know what? I think there's a couple things too. Like, you can't have any control really over the outcome at that point in time. So, a lot of the fright or the fears that you feel on stage, like, they're more so rooted in what the outcome could be, I think, versus like, or the what ifs, right? Versus like the fact that you've done all this work. Like you said, you've built that confidence. And secondarily, I really love the word perform for being on stage because when you're on stage, everything it can be done bigger, right? Like we look like this big on a huge stage. Like we look so small. That when you do your movements, that's why we have the makeup. That's why we have the hair with the full extensions and we've got the nails. Like everything's done up. And so our posing needs to be essentially done up too. And I know a lot of women have struggled in their life with finding confidence, with maybe feeling small, even like they feel emotionally and mentally small, or like they've been put down. How do you encourage or bring out somebody's confidence who maybe has been broken down through their life?
I would say, as far as it goes with my personal clients, they all know too. I like to get to know them. I like to know, where they're at. I'll take the first few minutes of class or posing to kind of chat and see where they're at mindset wise and just take their temperature. And so that way I have a good grasp of where they're at with their confidence, with their practicing, with their overall how ready they are to hit that stage and after, which is something that I take pride in that I do for my girls too, is making sure that they have, a plan after because you can get the post-show blues. But as far as making sure that they're confident, I try to tailor their posing routine and their poses to them and who they are. So if I've got like a cheerleader, she's going to be fun and peppy, and that gives her more confidence because she's being who she is. I don't try to push them to be someone that they're not because I can't imagine myself going on stage and being, this like poppy kind of fun girl when I really am more like smooth and I try to show with my facial expressions and everyone expresses themselves different.
Hmm.
So I really try to hone in on what their thing is and in hopes of that giving them that comfort and confidence that they are being who they are.
Absolutely. Well, and I think If you try to force yourself to be something that you're not on stage, it's gonna be picked up on. Um, and it's much better to really just be yourself. Like you said, that is going to give you the most confidence. I know that if someone told me to like turn on like a sultry vibe, I'd be like, well, that's not happening. Like nope. I would look so uncomfortable on stage if I was told to do that. Like if I ever had gotten feedback like I was too smiley on stage, I'd be like, oh no, well, I can't help it, like I can't help it. But for some people, like that is actually how they like stay in that element and it's part of their performance. So I think that that's, one of the beautiful things about competing actually is it brings out a lot of confidence. Like every time we step on stage, we're doing something, we're being put in a spotlight, literally and essentially, everything's being highlighted in that moment, and we're putting our all of our hard work out there to be seen in the tangible form. How
Right.
has that evolved for you personally over the years from 2020 to then actually earning your pro card? Like, how has that evolved for you, your comfort on stage?
Question. It's definitely evolved. I would say my first show that I ever did, it was during COVID time, so everything was weird then.
Yeah.
It was 2020. It was my first show. Honestly, I was just happy to be there. And I think I've said that on one of my videos before. That was my that was my vibe. I was happy to be there. I was just excited for the glitz, the glam. And then once I got a taste for it, I think it evolved into, okay, I never really felt like I belonged per se. It was my first show, and sometimes you don't get lean enough and you don't, you just you learn as you go. So I wasn't quite sure that I belonged per se. And then, continuing on, I got a different posing coach, better. I said a better posing coach that like actually listened, I would say. And that's I think what helped me develop my skills as a posing coach was learning what worked for me and what didn't. Um, and then from there, I would say I evolved into a more of a competitor in a sense that I wanted to get better. I studied the sport. I saw what I needed to do. I didn't think I fit in, so I really honed in on what needed to happen to make me feel and embody an actual bikini competitor. And that's what gave me confidence. I always got first call outs, I knew they liked me, right? But I just had missing parts. So each time I would go back to the drawing board, I was just driven by that. I was obsessed with my feedback and how I can get better. How can I fit in more but stand out? So
Hmm.
I would say it just kind of came not naturally. There was a lot of grit there. Lots of times I wanted to just be like, I don't know about this, but I think more than anything, it was just taking my feedback, taking it with pride. Even if I didn't agree, it was always like a 3 to 6 month after I would look at my photos and be like, okay, I see what they meant. Because
Yeah.
when you're there, you're like, man, really?
Uh-huh.
And then
100%.
just learning to take the feedback, and it's not a negative thing. Even at the highest level, you're going to get feedback. There's always room for growth. So, yeah, I think really being able to digest criticism made me better and more confident. And you are being judged by the flesh. It is a interesting sport here. So once you realize that and take that power, that's what's going to make you better. I think it naturally just makes you more confident.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I really like that. I especially like how you said sometimes it takes some time for your eyes to adjust and really see like what the judges said. I think that towards the end of this prep, I started telling my coach because we were checking in like 3 times a day, back to back peak weeks, and I was like, I can no longer report in these check-ins accurately how I think I look right now. Like, I don't know, honestly. I'm like, I'm just gonna leave it up to you because that was part of our check-in process, like, and share how you think you look. And I just started saying, I mean, I look good. I don't really know I don't know what I see anymore because I think that's why it's important to have so many objective eyes on you.
Yeah. And there was times my coach is not the type of coach to be like, you're gonna win this. She's never ever said that. It's always been, business. And so even at nationals, my last show, I remember laying in bed the night before with my other half, and I was like, you know what? This is how blind I was to how I looked. I knew I was my
Yeah.
best personally. But we were laying in bed and I was getting ready to, close my eyes for the evening. And I said, you know, we did our best here and at least we get to enjoy Christmas. And because, it was right before the holidays. And in hindsight now, I'm like, that was so silly, right? Because like I had no idea what was about to happen. Sometimes you just don't see it for yourself. People can tell you, and you might see a glimmer of it here and there, but you're so used to expecting, well, you really don't know what to expect. It's anybody's game in bikini. So you're so used to, it being able to go any direction that you kind of set yourself up for like, I'm just going to go do this and see what happens. And I ended up winning the overall, and I still don't believe it. I'm still like,
So
let's
awesome.
see.
I love that.
So yeah, I think prep blinders are a thing for sure.
For sure. And you had said too that there were some times you're like, I don't know if I want to keep doing this. Like you were questioning it.
Yeah, I would say that I it was more so that I didn't know if I knew I had what it took because I lived like a pro, right? I checked the boxes, but I wasn't quite sure that it was almost like I had a mental armor on. I was telling myself that maybe I'm just not cut out for that far into this sport, and then once I actually saw myself up there next to other girls who I've competed with before, we've both evolved. I'm like, look at what we've done. Like this is cool.
Oh,
There's ebbs and flows there, right?
yeah.
So
Oh, for
I think
sure.
that's everybody.
Yeah, well, especially too, you came close a few times. So then when you're like close, so close you can taste it. Um, I don't know. I guess how I could put it is sometimes you get a win or you get close enough that you feel like, okay, maybe I can do this.
Yeah.
But then you don't. And I think that can plant just a seed of doubt. Like, okay, well, should I keep going for this? Or like, am I ever gonna get it? Like, did you ever experience that?
I would say a seed of doubt, yes. Yes. And thankfully I have a really good support system behind me that will talk me off of that ledge. Like I said, my coach is never the type to be like, you're gonna go win this. Like, so just
Hmm.
but I do have people in my corner that can kind of back me off of that ledge and be like, listen, what's gonna happen is gonna happen. Okay. So I don't have a quit button. I wish I did sometimes. Um, yeah, I never really truly think I said I was going to quit. In fact, I think when life got really hard, I pushed even harder. I leaned into
Mm.
defeat even harder just because, they always say like, you hear people say bodybuilding saved me, right? And it's not necessarily bodybuilding that saved me. It's more who I became during bodybuilding and what I learned about myself during bodybuilding that saved me
Mm.
from quitting or, lots of things.
For sure. Yeah, that's a good point. Well, tell us more about who you've become through bodybuilding.
Okay. So growing up, I wouldn't say I wasn't confident. I didn't know I could be. I wouldn't allow myself the space to be confident. I felt very shy, very looked over. And I never really felt like I had a thing. I did not play sports. I became an athlete in my 30s.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah, that's very interesting.
so I just had this, I mean, I was in journalism in high school, if that tells you anything. I was very quiet.
Love
But
that.
it gave me a platform. It gave me confidence in something not a lot of people were doing. And it kind of forced you to place yourself in a position of you, like you said earlier, in a spotlight, right? So
Hmm.
at that point, it's do or die. It's like, I gotta
Literally.
go. So it really helped me grow as a female to find I guess, confidence, you could say, to find my, you know, ability to exist within chaos, to juggle many things at once. And my favorite thing that I've learned about myself through this whole journey on prep is that, when you in a regular day, in a regular lifestyle, when you have a bad day, you can go get a burger, you can go have a drink with a friend, you can
Mm-hmm.
whatever your vice is, right? You can do all of those things. But when you're on a prep, you don't really have that option. You have to sit with it. You have to sit with what you're feeling. You can't
Mm-hmm.
really have an escape other than maybe like go for a walk or, watch a show, drink some tea, whatever.
For
So
real.
so you learn to really be introspective and learn why you do those things and why you tick the way you do. And I've really enjoyed that. I've really enjoyed that aspect. So it's less about what I'm doing and more about what I'm learning about myself.
Mm-hmm.
I've learned that I am a lot tougher than I thought mentally, not just physically. And most importantly, this one always gets me. I feel like I am who my 13-year-old self would love.
Really? Oh, how so?
I just think I needed somebody like that. I think I needed, sorry.
Oh, I love this.
I did not expect this to happen.
Okay.
I think I really needed someone to tell me that it was going to be okay and that I'm tough regardless of what people thought or what I thought. Um, sorry.
No, it's okay. This is touching.
So yeah, I had a really tough mom. She was awesome. Like she was my hero. Still is. And I think I just really wanted to embody that myself, and finding that
Mm.
now has made me feel bulletproof.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. That is so beautiful. Why do you think the 13-year-old version of you needed to hear that?
Well, when you're 13, everything's so detrimental, right? Like like anything anyone says just kind of just sticks to you.
Mm.
And I said like I mentioned earlier, I struggled to find an identity. I very much so was kind of a follower. I wanted to be liked. I wanted to be accepted. I wanted to not be different. I didn't want to be like the foreign girl, right? And now looking back, I'm like, oh my God, you had this whole platform to be like someone so cool and you just shoved it in. You were just trying to be like everybody else. And I
Mm.
remember my mom used to tell me that all the time. She's like, you don't want to be like everybody else, right? So I think if I were to have had a fast forward in my teens or early teens to who I am now, I would have felt a lot more comfortable in my own skin and not taken on so many other definitions of myself that really weren't me. I would have
Mm.
wasted less time.
Trying to be like other people or make other people happy with who you are
Yeah,
and comfortable with who you are.
yeah, absolutely.
So now you're this incredible, beautiful grown woman who inspires so many people, including yourself, which is a wonderful thing. I think that's one of the best gifts we can really give ourselves is the ability to be strong and confident and know who we are and be proud of that, irregardless of judgment.
Right.
And it's interesting that you found your truest self or really embodied like your unique differences through a sport that is judged.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
That's what I'm saying. When I said earlier, it kind of forced me to
Yeah.
be able to face that and
Mm.
be able to be like, okay, cool. That's what you see. Let me go back and fix this. I'll be back. So it made me feel
Mhm.
like I took all of those years and now I'm like, put it on me. Like, let's go.
Love that. That
Yeah.
honestly, that resonates so much. I remember part of like competing for me has been it's given me a way to essentially subject myself to judgment and being told, okay, this needs to be better or improve without it being like in a bullied sense.
Yeah.
Like the things that I was made fun of for or poked fun of at. Like now it's I actually am putting myself to judgment based off of criteria I want to be judged against around women that I really respect and admire versus okay, yeah, I'm in this sea of kids, teenagers, people who I don't really care to be like them anyways. They maybe I don't fit in, but that can be hurtful because we all have a desire to belong. And then when you choose something you want to belong to and you actually morph into that version of you that not just belongs, but as you said earlier, and I love how you said that, stands out, it's incredibly life-giving. And clearly it's made such an impact on you because you've become a coach, you have become a sponsored athlete, you went from amateur to pro. Um, you co do you co-own that gym or that you personal train at?
So my other half, my boyfriend owns it, yes, but we've gone
Okay.
through like a whole rebranding process and yeah, so we've done it all together. It's been awesome.
So that's what I'm saying. Like you didn't just, oh, do I belong? You know, like you were like, I'm here and I'm
Dive.
yeah, you're like, oh no, even if you don't think I belong, I'm here. You're gonna have to deal with me. Uh which is so cool. So what are some of the things that you have done along the way that you feel really have has contributed to your growth personally and professionally?
Do you mean outside of just competing or?
Yeah, like within the industry for being a personal trainer, becoming a sponsored athlete, like what are some of the things that you've done to really like harness your influence?
I would say the biggest thing that helped me the most was teaching others and really guiding others. It's helped me learn more about myself, more about the sport. I mean, they say if you can teach something, then you truly understand it. And while it's an evolving sport, it's ever evolving. I do feel like I have a good grasp on it. I've had really good teachers and I've invested. I've invested in, a great posing coach, a great coach who, has taught me a lot, who's given me a platform to be myself as well, and to grow and has supported that and has watered it. I've switched gym environments that actually made me grow even more so. Environment is everything to me. Now I truly understand what it's like to be like an animal like that's outgrown their cage, right?
Mm.
So you just go into a bigger cage and you're able to grow some more. So really putting myself in positions that I wouldn't have been comfortable with and forcing myself to just dive, right? Has made me a better trainer, coach, athlete, human, you name it. I would just say continuing to evolve and learn and be coachable and grow has definitely helped me evolve.
Hmm.
Eating.
Definitely. So in looking back, how has your training and nutrition evolved over the years? Because clearly you've evolved from a mental perspective, from a learning perspective, from a confidence perspective. But how about with training and nutrition?
I would say nutrition wise, it's always been pretty black and white with my coach and I. Um, she does meal plans, so it's not like a macro thing, right? So I get a meal plan, I eat what's on the paper, I don't eat what's not on the paper.
Mm.
Um, our training has really changed. Her and I have definitely grown together. We have learned. I am her only bikini athlete, by the way.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so no pressure there, right? Um, so she definitely takes on, a different clientele. So it's been really fun to learn together how to just hone in on glutes, how to hone in on my training and my body and how to evolve without making the wrong things grow. But ultimately it's been fun more than anything. There hasn't been a lot of change. As
Yeah.
training for this is very repetitive. It's the same things. The only things that have changed are like how we peak me. And that's still a like we just kind of nailed it, you know? So,
What did you do differently?
starting out we would do like I would get like a cheat the night before and I would fill out and whatever. And I just didn't have the tissue yet either. Um,
Mm,
and then as my body evolved, my peaking evolved too. She's learned my body. We've learned what works. And each time I've honestly progressed and evolved so much that I do feel like a different animal. So we do have to.
yeah.
But my favorite thing is that I don't have to worry about it. Like she should take the reins, she does it, I'll eat it and execute.
It's
So
amazing.
I would say not a whole lot has changed other than, we have that mutual trust with each other. So, it's a collaboration. It's awesome.
Oh, yeah. And I think when you have that type of relationship with your coach where you can genuinely collaborate and it's done in such a respectful and organic way, you will naturally just grow with them. And it's really cool that you guys have done that together. And I think there's a lot of things we learn over the years of competing, but what are some of the things that you wish more competitors knew or maybe even took seriously when it comes to competing?
This is a good one, and I will die on this hill. I know I have other people that are in it with me because I see people talk about it, but I love when, there's girls out there and guys that, want a bucket list competing, right? And they just, if it's one and done, great. That's awesome. But it is an extreme sport at the end of the day. You can get lost in the glitz and the glamour, but my biggest thing is when you see people blame competing for their either health issues or um, eating issues and things like that. And also when people don't take the reverse seriously. Like that's
Yeah.
one of my biggest pet peeves. It's because like, was it the sport or was it your lack of consistency in it? Or did you not take it seriously? Did you not like, I just feel like there should be a little bit of respect for the sport there. It is an extreme sport. You signed up for this. So you also signed up for your responsibility after the fact.
Hmm.
So I think, yeah, that would definitely be something that I'm very passionate about.
Let's dive into that more, okay? Because
Okay.
I think this is important. Um, Before going into a competition, somebody needs to be prepared for the fact it's not, let's say they sign up for a prep and they look like they could be ready in 12 weeks. Okay, we're just going to throw out a number. They need to understand that there's also 12 weeks at least post show. And then there's the year. And then when you really get into competing, I can tell you, this is my 10th year competing. I'm done. I look back and I'm like, holy moly, almost every thought has gone through a filter of my next show or how it's going to affect bodybuilding. And that's apparent to me now that I don't have a show or a next phase. I'm like, oh, like I went to do my check-in, for example, and I'm like, I don't need to do a posing video. Like this is weird. What do I do with my hands, you know? Um, and then there's just been moments like that, but that's what I think people need to understand is okay, yes, if it's going to be a bucket list, awesome, but the bucket list means you're also signing up for the post, like you said. And if you don't want to go through the post show in the reverse, that's okay. But then, and now I'm going on a rant, but like we could go on this soapbox together. Well, I'm jumping up there with you. But like, here's what I tell my clients. I'm like, and I do mental health coaching for competitors. So the thing that I tell them is you have to be willing to accept what you can expect. You can expect that if post show you do not adhere to your reverse diet, even at 80%, okay? Like I'm not even saying it has to be 100%, but even at 80%, you can expect your body will respond in a way that is different than had you followed it at 90%, 100%, 81%, 82%. It's gonna respond differently. So whatever decision you're committed to, you have to also commit to the potential outcome of that decision. I don't think enough people prepare for those potentials.
No, I completely agree, which is why I had mentioned earlier that, with my posing girls, I do try to remind them, this is great, this is going to be fun, but what are you doing after? What's your
Yeah.
plan? Does your coach have a reverse diet for you? Are you following it? You should. So
Yeah. And if
I,
they don't, why? Did you not hire
yeah.
them for this phase?
Yeah,
Did they
and you'd be
drop you?
surprised. There are some coaches out there, to go back to what I said. Unfortunately, there are some coaches out there that can mess up your health here and there, depending on how,
Mhm.
you know, if you are natural or not, or that can tinker with, your thyroid and metabolism and all of those things. So that's not to say that that doesn't happen and that it's not always the athlete's fault. But yeah, you do have to accept that responsibility as part of the whole process, for sure.
So someone might be listening and going, wait a minute, I don't actually know what a reverse diet is. Someone's spouse might be listening and being like, okay, I'm trying to prepare for this.
Yes.
What would you tell someone? What is reverse dieting?
Well, okay, so post show, you're so susceptible to just gaining body fat, right? You've been regimented for however long, sometimes up to 20 plus weeks, or who knows, right? So your body's really susceptible to gaining fat very quickly, like quicker than you can imagine. So basically, it's just dialing it back up with your macros just very slowly, like you'll have a plan for about 2 weeks or so, and then you'll up your carbs, lower the cardio a little bit. Everything just kind of toggles down and toggles back up at the same time to where you're back to like homeostasis, let's say. So it's a very important process to go through. You're putting your body, again, it's an extreme sport. It's not a sustainable body fat to be at for most people, unless you're like magic unicorn like Ashley K, So so I always admire that about her. But there's yeah, like you definitely have to slowly put the work back in
Uh-huh.
and make sure that you're taking care of yourself on the back end, or else it's just going to be mayhem for your body, and nobody wants that.
No. And you know what? This is actually something I have my husband, he doesn't know this lifestyle, okay? Like he only knows about bodybuilding because of me. So, recently we were talking about I've basically primed him the entire prep. There's a reverse phase, there's a post-show phase, this doesn't just end when it ends, right? And it's funny because explaining that to him as well as to my stepson is strange because to them it's like, well, just you just live normally. And it's like, as a competitor though, I love this lifestyle. Like I also love this. And I think we have to latch on to the passion behind it too. Sometimes there's outside influences that are like, oh, now you can eat normally again. Oh, now, and I'm not saying my husband does that. Okay, he's very supportive, but this is just, I'm relating it back. Oh, now you can do this. Now we can do that. Let's go do this. Or you might have told yourself that story because you didn't know. But what we have to remember is we love doing this, right? We love nourishing our body and moving our body. At the core of it, that's what it comes down to is you're taking care of yourself. And like you said, your body is so sensitive at that time. And I think that your mind is also extremely sensitive. Like we were talking about that adjustment to what we see, not really lining up with what's real. Your behaviors can change how you perceive yourself. So someone might go off plan and then they start falling into this judgment and shame cycle, and then they start seeing their body as, oh, I'm fluffy now, I'm fat. And then they start telling that story, and then they're like, well, screw it. It doesn't matter. I'm just going to binge. I'm just going to have whatever I want. I'm not going to follow my plan. I'm not going to check in with my coach. And it goes downhill. But what's crazy is that's all built on some made up story based on a perception that, oh, you're not good enough because you weren't perfect. So we also have to be careful with, as we're trying to achieve physiological homeostasis, we also need to work to achieve mental homeostasis. And that is a lot of brain checking. So what are some of the things you do to support your transition into post show or improvement season?
My main thing is again checking the boxes. I think when you know that you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing, it creates this natural anxiety, right? Where
Mhm.
it's just a snowball effect where you're like, cool, I know that I kind of failed here a little bit. And that's not to say I've never done that, right? My very first show, I think I went and ate Mexican food post show, and I will never, I tell you, never do that again. I learned my lesson.
Did you have pain? Did you have like bruise-like skin feeling the next day? Like were you just
No, it wasn't
swollen?
that bad. I was just so swollen. Oh my gosh. I
Yeah.
remember looking down at my hands and being like, I will never do this to myself again.
You know it's bad when you like can't get a ring off. You're like, "Oh, okay."
Definitely a rookie mistake for sure. Um, But yeah, I think I just try to remind myself that this is part of the process, right? And also I am going to gain some body fat and it is going to come on in places that I'm not used to. So once you've done it, a few times, you learn to just kind of shut that voice up
Mm.
and remind yourself that this is part of it. Like I'm never going to evolve if I don't grow. I'm never going to evolve or get better if I can't stand the way I look, let's say in a bulk. I did a bulk one time and it was so much fun and it was so hard at the same time, like consistently convincing myself that like I'm doing this on purpose.
Yeah,
Like, just
I love
so, it's a lot of self-talk. It's a lot of checking in with yourself, like you said, and that's the important of wanting to be taken seriously in this sport is that if you want to be taken seriously, they say be consistent, right? So I would just say the more I am hardcore on checking the boxes and what I need to do in a passionate way, not an obsessive way, not in a way that it like controls and consumes my life. Like you said, people will kind of be like, oh, well, now you can eat what you want. Like, I'm a huge foodie. I know I can eat what I want. I
right.
will. But it within within the guidelines and boundaries that you have. So, yeah.
Absolutely. And I think there's a big difference between looking at your body as this physique that stepped on stage and is now off stage and it's gonna be fading and whatever and looking at your body like wow body thank you for all that you've done for me, thank you for how you've supported me through this prep. It is my duty, responsibility, and honor to care for you, body, and here's how I'm gonna do it. I think that there's a huge intentional difference there that can change how you behave. And what I like too is you're not saying it's got to be this rigid thing. It's more like, okay, yeah, like for example, if I go out to a coffee shop in prep, I'm probably bringing my own milk, creamer, whatever. Okay. But like in improvement season, okay, well, if I go and let's say they don't have any more sugar free flavors, okay, like I'll just take the regular one. It's not gonna like make or break this whole thing. And I think too, what you said was the purposeful growth. That reminded me of something. So a lot of people respect the physique on stage. They see that, oh, that's so amazing. That's but what they didn't see was like the version of you was that was at her local gym before you found your super cool gym. But like at her local gym, maybe with baggier clothing or like your clothing was just maybe fitting a little bit tighter. You're pushing weight and then you're like, "Oh my God, I'm not even that hungry right now." And then you go and you eat more food, but then you're like, "Oh, I'm kind of hungry now because we're just keep pushing it, but I'm gaining." Like they don't see that side. So if you commit to competing, you have to respect the prep, but just as much as you respect the prep, you have to respect the growing season. And if you can't, then you're not accepting that bodybuilding is extreme and requires both.
Absolutely. You have to respect the process. And that was definitely a learning experience for me. I clung to wanting to stay lean-ish and wanting to always look that part because people do respect the body on.
Mhm.
But I think I don't know if I was just lucky with it or if that's just how I chose to see it. for myself, but I had a lot of fun in my bulk. I had never looked that way on purpose, or let's say I had never been that weight on purpose.
Yeah.
And I'm 5'2". I'm short. I can't like I don't have a lot of room there to pack on. Um, so
Love
it was a learning experience. Like I had a bum for the first time in my life. I was like, oh
it.
my
That's the best. That's all the motivation I need. Like, give me my booty back. You know what I'm saying? I want to feel like I got a basketball in my hand.
God. Oh my gosh.
I just
Yeah,
wanted to make you laugh.
gosh, it worked. I just remember like putting on different pairs of shorts and sometimes ripping them and being like, oh my God. And I just made a joke out of it. I just like
Love
do a
that.
little boomerang on Instagram of me throwing away another freaking pair of shorts because I busted up. Like I just
Amazing.
grabbing to my size. I refuse to buy more clothes.
Literally. That's why I shop at Goodwill. I'm like, yeah, especially deep in prep, I'm like, I'm going to Goodwill. I can't afford to go to Hollister every time I need a pair of jeans. No thanks.
So yeah, just like once you accept it, it's a lot more fun.
Oh yeah, I love that. That's such a true perspective. And I think going back to the growth phase that you went through, the bulking phase, obviously it's worked because when you compare your physique in 2020 to your most recent physique,
Yeah.
holy moly, like is that the same person? You know what I mean? Like you look and you're like, wow. So your progress obviously speaks for itself. And you never placed out of the top five with the exception of like one national show, and you were right there, which was the same national show that you came back and won 2 years later. So redemption. But how how did you progress from a feedback perspective? Like, what is it that you were focused on? What were they telling you to improve on? And then what did you do to actually deliver on that feedback?
I would say, I mean, first starting out, I think at my first show, and wellness was kind of new. So they were like, we really think that you may have a future in wellness. And I'm like, have you seen me? But anyway, that one, I was just kind of like, I'm not
When
so sure.
was that they said that?
That was 2020. That was my very first show. And if you look at those
I'm
photos,
actually going to pull up the
that
photos.
girl, I was so small. I don't know. I think wellness was still so new and the criteria was just very, very,
Well, I guess
I was around.
not round, but you weren't as conditioned as you
Yeah.
are now. Round. You
Oh.
were not round, but you were not as conditioned. That's all.
So from there, I think I've gotten a little bit of everything. I've gotten just a little leaner. I've gotten too lean. I've gotten needs more tissue. There's been a lot of different feedback that I've gotten. It's never really been my look or my suit
Yeah.
or my tan. It's always been, more glute projection, more tissue, more development, too lean, too hard. So from there, we just went back to the drawing board. And, I do think it's important to be a student of the sport and really study what they're rewarding that year, what people look like, how people are coming in, what, just really keeping a tabs on what the vibe is. So has really
Well,
helped me.
was that bulk the 2022 to 2024 season? Okay, yeah, because that's where you had the most. I mean, you obviously had changed so much from 2020, 21, 22, but like the 2022 to 24 was like the most insane.
Yeah, it really took me actually putting on that weight and pushing hard. I mean, training super hard. And I was already going through so much at the time. So it was really an outlet. It was a safety net in a sense. And I was really lucky to be in a relationship at that time too that really encouraged me and like
Mm.
loved me through it. Whereas before I was like so scared of being, a little bit over a weight cap or a
Mhm.
little bit of pudge here and there. When it was just welcomed and invited, like I said, I fell in love with the process. It was funny at that point when I was just like heavy.
What was your, if you don't mind talking about it, I think as athletes it's perfectly fair to, but what was your stage weight in 22 compared to 24? and how far did you push?
This is crazy. So I may be wrong a little bit. I think in 2022, I believe I was like 106,
Okay.
something like that. And then 2024, I think my coach calls it my fighting weight. I was like 117.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, girl. It was
Like
wild.
that's like newbie gains.
I think it was just the universe was like, this girl's been through enough. Let's freaking help her out here. So, yeah.
That's called carrying. You were literally carrying the weight of the world in every way.
Oh, totally. So I just wore it like a badge of honor. I'm like, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to set the example. Like everyone's scared. Oklahoma doesn't have like a huge community of bikini. Let's say there's a lot of girls that will go compete, but there's not so many that like will actually hit national shows or like
Hmm.
compete outside of Oklahoma, right? They're all just like within here. And I've never competed in Oklahoma. I've always wanted to go like somewhere else where the competition was like I didn't know them, which was awesome. But yeah, it just the push was fun.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. So where were you at in your improvement season? Like, because you obviously
Weight
had to
wise?
prep to get back down to 116.
Okay. So, and everyone is different. I will say these are just numbers, right? And yada yada. We always say the scale is just a
Good
tool.
disclaimer.
Well, yeah, yeah. So I think I pushed like almost 140, almost. And that's a lot for 5'2". I mean, like heavy breathing. And it was summertime too. Like I have this running joke with my coach where I will send her this. I found it on the internet. It's a toad in a bikini with lipstick on, and like I would send that to her every time I had to do a check-in because I'm gonna make fun of myself first
That's
before.
amazing. I love this though because there's this story I think that gets told that you have to stay within a certain amount of stage weight. And I think that that's Oh, go ahead.
I do agree with that to an extent.
Okay.
When you're taking the time off to really push, and it has to be calculated here. I wasn't like bonging brownies and like ice cream and all pizza. I was eating very calculated, calories and it was methodical. I had some fun in
Yes.
it, but like there was no way that my coach would have just let me fall off the deep end and be sloppy. It definitely you could tell there was muscle under there. So I will.
Exactly. Yes. See, it's a strategic commitment to gaining muscle
Yes.
that also means the scale's going to go up. It's just what it means. And I think people, when they tell themselves this story, I can't gain more than XYZ weight, they end up putting limits on their potential
Right.
and or trying to go into cuts and try to jump back in prep instead of just really trusting that that growth season is going to pay off and be worth it, which you did. And the reason I'm bringing that up is because, probably now I would imagine with the amount of muscle mass you put on, you're probably not looking at doing an improvement season again where you have to gain 40 pounds.
No, absolutely not. I don't
Right.
want
Because
to
now
do.
you've got all this muscle now, like you've done that building really, like you've laid this great foundation. So why don't you just tell us what was your feedback after your pro card win?
My feedback after that was honestly, I was ready for a pro show. And they really were asking
Hmm.
when and if. My personal plan was to like put some respect on it and go back and grow. Because like I told you, my mindset was like I did my best and
Mm.
it is what it is. So like let's go have fun.
Hmm.
So my feedback was just to obviously there's always going to be feedback to put a little more tissue on, right?
Hmm.
My conditioning was great. They liked it. My suit, hair, everything else was great. It was just really fine tuning things here and there.
Yeah.
And, and most of it's just my personal, like what I see and what my coach sees too, that like we could really just kind of zhuzh in places to make those improvements to be competitive at the pro level. So, I mean, I'm pumped to see what I look like like amongst these girls that I look up to. Like this is so exciting.
Oh, I'm so excited for you. So, do you have a show picked out for your pro debut?
I do have a show in mind.
Okay.
So like I said, coach makes the final call, but we are pushing for August. So we'll see.
Ah, okay. Um, that's very exciting. And I'm assuming that's going to be outside of Oklahoma.
Yes. Yes,
Okay.
for sure.
Amazing. Well, we'll be keeping an eye on that, obviously. I think it's going to be awesome to see. Do you have anyone that you're hoping you get to share the stage with?
Gosh. I actually haven't thought about anyone in specific. It's always just been like this, like kind of thought of me just like getting out there and just being able to see even like they don't even have to be like well-known pros. It's just other
Right.
girls that have made it to that level, like just seeing what that looks like. What and everyone's bodies are so interesting to me, like how different, things can look and how I could
Yes.
get someone who's, because there is no height difference in the pro league. So it's just going to be so cool to see that for sure.
Oh yeah, it's so interesting to see how the bikini criteria can be met across the board. This is so random, but has anyone ever told you that you look like you could be sisters with Ariana Brothers?
Yes, total compliment too. Yes, actually, two people for sure.
No, but like literally though, like y'all look like you could be sisters.
It's a compliment, and hopefully she finds it that way too, because a
Oh
lot
my
of people
gosh.
say
Yeah,
it.
you're both stunning, of course.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've heard that, which is I don't know exactly how tall she is, but I know she's the taller girl, and I'm 5'2", so even that would be funny, just to
Yeah.
like so cool to see.
Hilarious. I love it. I was like when I was prepping your episode, I was like, I'm gonna have to tell her. And some people don't like to be told it. I was like, she's gonna be fine with it. I think that it'll be good to share
I
it.
will take it. Yes.
Yeah. Right? If someone told me I look like either of you, I'd be like, hell yeah, let's go. Come on. Okay, so let's go to coming back and winning your first and overall to qualify for the 2024 Nationals, where then you earned your pro card. So between 2022 and 2024, you were obviously growing, and you had said that in part of that growing phase, like you were going through a lot too, and it really became an outlet for you, a saving grace. So what was going on at that time in your life, and how did it impact you in that phase?
So in 2022, I believe Nationals was, the first week of December. And I had stepped off stage, and I believe only a few days later is when I unexpectedly and like tragically lost my husband. It was a huge shock and a gut punch to everything. And growing up, so I was the only girl and I was the youngest. So I was always like the baby, right? I felt very protected. He was my protector, my person, right? And all of a sudden I was absolutely stripped of that. So it was me against the world is what it felt like. And I had a choice to make in that moment that I either like tie up my shoes and take this head on, or like it was going to eat me alive. And the only thing I knew, again, coming right off of a prep, was that this is my responsibility, like to myself, regardless of what is going on. This is what I know. This is what keeps me sane, which is discipline and, routine. So I clung to that for dear life. I felt like my loss was, to keep things short, it was very public, and I felt like I was like in a microscope,
Mhm.
being looked at through a microscope, I should say. And I was like, I'll be damned if I look back, honestly, and I don't make this my comeback. of whatever that looks like. It wasn't even necessarily about competing. It was like me in general. It was Massa 2.0. Like we were going to find her and we were going to be her, and no one was going to stop me from that. So it was the only thing that I could think to do in that moment of like grief. And I just clung to it. And that's actually also when I did my bulk. I was stripped of everything. I was stripped of, I felt like my identity at the time of
Mhm.
my husband, my streams of income, my whole life, like literally just flip it upside down. And I had nothing other than my own characteristics, right? So I just built on it. I was like, you know what? I don't have anything to lose. People are looking at me, people are judging me. What's a couple pounds? Like out of all the horrible things that are happening right now, like it just really put it into perspective for me that like putting on some weight really isn't a big deal in the grand scheme of things. Like, let's just go ahead and do it. Let's focus. And I poured all of my energy and effort into what I knew best. And it wasn't the easiest thing. It wasn't sunshine and rainbows. There was very, very dark moments of just feeling not alone, but on an island, I
Mm,
guess.
mm, mhm.
And I just kind of used that to propel me. I would picture who I wanted to be, and I would ask myself what I needed to do to be her and what missing pieces I had. Like, and I would journal it. I would write it down, and I would just make sure I'm a huge planner. I put everything in my planner. I'm old school. I would make sure, like, I would write myself like notes, little like encouraging things, sometimes dark things. I would just let it. I would let people be and let them say the things that they wanted. And I would let myself feel and let myself be happy if I needed it and let myself be, in a shitty mood if I needed it. But I didn't let it identify me. And that storm was what built the foundation of what I have today, which is
Mm.
getting on my 2 feet, starting to personal train, starting to be a posing coach, you know, actually feeling like I'm living like a professional, like actually deserving that title, feeling like I truly did the work to deserve it. And I feel like that just made me a weapon.
I'll
Yeah.
say. Yeah, I'll say. It's almost like going through that tragedy in some ways maybe led you to building your own armor. No longer, not that you were necessarily reliant, but you described him as your protector. So then you had to really learn to protect yourself after, growing up in a household where you had protectors and then your
Yeah.
husband being your protector, then you're like, okay. And then you were facing challenges, questions, judgment from people,
Mhm.
and you had to protect yourself.
I had no other choice. And I mean, I hate the circumstances, but that's life and that's my story. But I am forever grateful for the grace that I felt, um, just like God's grace in it. And, I felt very protected in that sense to where I felt safe enough to dip my toes into unknown, uncharted waters for myself. And I don't want to say I was forced to grow up because I'm an adult. But it's
Right.
like that, there's layers of growing up, right?
Of
There's layers of
course.
adulthood. And I had no other choice. My back was against a wall and I wasn't about to go down. There was no way. So,
Well, losing your husband, I can't actually fathom what that must have felt like and been like in that moment. I think about silly arguments and fights I get into with my husband, and then I'm overcome with this like fear. But due to my own traumas that I faced, I get overcome with this fear of like, oh my gosh, what if I don't see him again? Has it changed how you love?
Absolutely. I think, and that's not just in a relationship wise. This
Right.
could be a friendship, this could be family, this could be anything. You could relate it to anything, but absolutely, I try not to leave things unsaid. I try to my main thing, and it's I would say I learned to love and live different.
Mm.
Um, it taught me how unexpected it was and how, quick life just punches you. It taught me to not leave anything on the table. Like, go live, go, like, stop wasting time. So it definitely changed me in many ways. Um, yeah, more ways than one. And a lot of them were for the better. Grief is funny. Is sometimes it can take you down. And you go through these like valleys of it's kind of shitty. But again, you don't let that become your identity and you just grow from it. And it's a beautiful thing. It's definitely a double-edged sword.
Oh yeah,
Mhm.
that's for sure. Sometimes it brings a strangely surprising, like beautiful perspective into your life. And then there's other times where it's of course just incredibly painful.
Yeah.
I like how you said you had to keep living. And I think when you go through a loss of any sort, especially when it's tragic and unexpected, that's difficult because everyone has questions and no one's satisfied with answers. Um, and a lot of times we don't have answers. So it's especially unsettling for most people.
Yeah, absolutely.
How did you um like adjust your life and then reopen your heart to find your now partner who you've really grown with in life? And I love how you're smiling. But in life and competing and family and business, like how did you open your heart back up so you could experience all that this current life you're living offers you?
It's it was a very intertwined in a way. Like grief for me, and I believe I may have like had a video about this somewhere on my social media, but it was so my grief was wrapped in like sunshine and guilt. Like
Mm,
horrible things were happening amongst beautiful things. And
mm,
like the loss brought my family closer together. It brought my friends closer together. It gave me a new perspective, while on the other hand, it really like left a gaping hole in my heart, So the feelings were like, I was like a punching bag. Like one minute it's good, one minute it's shitty, right? So I would say I was able to accept love for the
mm,
first time and really just
mm,
take it and like receive, if that makes sense.
mm, mm,
And as far as like my late husband and I's relationship goes, our relationship was very tough love, very like we joked
mm,
a lot. It wasn't very lovey-dovey, right? So, as you evolve as a female, I mean, I feel like, yeah, like 30 is an age, but like once you start to like keep going, like you evolve still, right?
yeah.
And I think I always wanted that feeling of um just unconditionally just being loved and not being in my masculine energy of things.
That's
Be able
it.
to let go of the reins and just be. Like I wanted to be free and comfortable and like a girl's girl for once,
For
So
sure.
I don't know, just I had known my boyfriend now from before, and it just evolved into something so beautiful and so hard to explain. And
Mm,
like I said, it's God's grace in all of it. I just feel like one thing was removed from my life and he like had this shield on me. If I could paint this picture for you, there was this shield of protection and it was like here's the pieces or here's the ingredients to make this cake, like, but you gotta
mm,
make it, like they say. And I will forever be grateful for that. I will forever feel so loved and protected um, from that. So
That's amazing. That sounds so beautiful. It's like it's exactly how you described it. It's like beautiful things among really challenging. Yeah. So you obviously grew through that as a woman, as a person, and you've made your own way. You've done so incredibly well in competing. And I can, and I know there's a lot of people who can relate to this. Bodybuilding being what you know, being what you could lean on at a tough time. It was the predictable in a very unpredictable situation,
yeah,
right?
pretty much. It's like watching your favorite reruns of a show. Like,
Yeah, there's comfort.
I know if I check these boxes, this is going to happen. I was in control of that when I was not in control of anything else. So
Mm-hmm.
that's what really helped me. It was like the only thing I could grasp was my
Mm.
discipline and my to-do list. And I clung to that thing, girl. Yeah.
You don't need to tell me. I already know. I sometimes I'll be white knuckling it even still. You actually made a joke about that earlier, saying sometimes it's to your disadvantage. I'm curious how it presents maybe in ways that you're trying to navigate or manage better, actually.
Oh, my like discipline and my need for routine.
Uh-huh.
Okay, I'll tell you. My boyfriend, his name's Matt, by the way. Okay.
Okay,
He
Matt.
is, I admire this about him so much. Wherever he is in that moment. Like if he's having a face-to-face conversation, he is in that moment with you.
Uh-huh.
It is so awesome because it makes you feel special, right? Me, I'm thinking about what I got to do, where I'm supposed to be, what's next, where's my planner? I need to, like, I
Yeah.
have all these tabs open, like I said earlier. And
Uh-huh.
like, I have it's been a learning experience and I'm still working on it because uh Matt also has a 17-year-old son. His name's Cameron. And you know, us just coexisting together has been such a fun learning experience because it's like
Hmm.
kids are I was the baby. Like
Yeah.
I had no experience with that. So even though he's a teenager, like there's chaos, right? And so there's so much going on and you just learn to like just keep going. And he's so good at it that I'm like, well, that's not on my paper right now. So I didn't write that down on my to-do list. So learning to just roll with punches has been really relieving, even though I don't want him to hear
Yeah,
that.
I hear
But like
you.
I feel like it kind of it's another tool in the toolbox, but I just never, there's been so many times where I've called my mom and I'm like, how did you deal with us and work and having a husband and all of these things and still having friends? Like I need, there was three of us.
Right? And then you're like, and also, was any of it even fun for you?
Yeah,
Because
I'm
I'm
sorry.
not having fun.
Pretty much. It's like the best time of my life, but it's such a learning experience. And you mentioned having a stepson too. So it's like it's so beautiful and it's like, wow, I'm in charge of someone else's life now. But like I really need to get my shit together now too.
You're
So
like, but wow, I'm in charge of somebody else's.
yeah.
Oh my gosh, that is so true. Like yeah, especially like that. My husband is like, well, you haven't had your own kids yet, so he's developed this ability to be very much in the moment, right, and like responsive. And I'm very much like, I just don't understand why it's not this way. Like, why are we not doing these things? And what about X, Y, and Z that has to happen? So. I can absolutely relate when you say like it's been a good thing that he's helped you to go with the flow, and I'm sure he would say the same thing about you, that your discipline and planning abilities has kept him and probably made him a better dad, honestly, and more regimented in a positive way.
Yeah, yeah, we definitely have rubbed off in each other in good ways, for sure. Like good qualities. Yeah.
Yeah, that's so cool. And you guys have been together how many years now?
So around about 2 years. And honestly, I feel like he is a big reason why I have evolved. He's definitely been a great catalyst for it too, just because he did, like I said, he did put me into more of like a feminine energy. Like I was
Yeah.
able to have those feelings. I was able to feel, you know. like I could let go of the reins and like focus on myself for a second. And
Mm.
it was all okay to do that. And it was natural. And just being able to feel like a whole woman is
Yeah.
a drug. It's so good.
Well, because then you're yourself and
Yeah.
you're living more in the design that God intended for you as a woman.
Right. And like the environment at the gym is great. There's so many inspiring people to look at in all different walks of life. And it's hard not to want to be better when you're amongst people that are all improving themselves and are all happy, and you have this like family and this net of like a safety net of people that know how hard you're working and can appreciate it and
That's
cheer.
so cool.
Yeah.
And that speaks to your earlier point too, like being in an environment has made that an environment that's so supportive and a better gym environment has been really positive for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Your resilience is not just a result of what you've been through, but it's everything that you've chosen to do in spite of it. Like you've really just built yourself and your identity. And um, I'm really inspired by you. And like, yeah, I'm really excited to see how else you continue to challenge this, but more importantly, I know other people are inspired by you too, and I'm so grateful to see athletes who have this heart be rewarded with sponsorships or opportunities. Like it makes me happy. I'm like, yeah, that's the person that should be representing. So now that you're preparing for your pro debut, what are your goals for your pro career?
Gosh, that's such, I mean, the question still gives me goosebumps. I still feel like I'm a fly on the wall watching this happen to somebody else.
You're like, at least some pros have been like, well, I'll forget I'm not going to like a regional show and a national show. They're like, actually, I'm gonna go to the show and they're gonna tell me what time I'm on stage.
I mean, of course, everyone has, high hopes and dreams and expectations of themselves to make it to be successful and to win and to, make a name for themselves. But more than anything, I think if I could be just impactful for women and people, not just in the sport, but, just an example. That's my main thing. I would love to be of positive influence to anybody and just show people and women in general that you can. You can have the world that the odds stacked against you and you can push through it. You can come from a background of not being very confident, lacking, whether you truly do or you think that you do, and become your own hero per se. So definitely that, and definitely I want to leave. Obviously, there's legacy. There's all of those great things. So more than anything, I just want to lead by example. If that answers your question correctly.
Yes.
And I just want to be a source of hope for people that are going through things that they maybe not talk about sometimes too.
What I love about that is it's not rooted in an outcome. It's just in your who you are.
Yeah. And that's not to say that I don't have hopes and dreams for myself. Like, of course, everyone wants to be able to like
Mhm.
grace a bigger stage and go to the Olympia and like all of those things, right? But I am very much so realistic in the work that it takes and the amount of dedication that those athletes put in. And that's not saying that, I may never get there or whatever, but it's more just I've fallen in love with the process. And when it is my time for that process to be fruitful, then that's great. And I learned that through going pro. Like, had I gotten it when I thought I should have gotten it, like it wouldn't have been as special. It wouldn't have been as monumental, and it wouldn't have been my story. It would have just been like, okay, cool. Like I would have loved it in that moment, but I'm not quite sure I would have respected it as much as I do now.
Oh yeah, definitely. It had to come and happen the way that it did. And now that's going to support you in your endeavors moving forward as well. And it's made you even more equipped to do what you want to do, which is inspire and support others. So, is there anything I didn't ask you that you wish I would have before we get into your best advice?
Um, I'm not quite sure. I don't think so. I do know. I mean, I am working on some things.
I want to hear. I want to
Yeah.
hear.
Absolutely. So the gym is that my other half owns.
Uh-huh.
Obviously we rebranded, excuse me.
Yes.
And we're also working on, I don't know when this is going to air, but we're also working on a clothing line. So,
That's awesome. And this will come out June 13th, if that helps.
okay, cool. Yeah. So we should have our ducks in a row close by then.
Good.
Finishing touches. It's not going to be anything big, right? It's been a dream of mine forever to do something like this and his too. So we
Aw.
just kind of like collabed and it's been a fun experience. Like my house is like full of boxes right now that I shoved to the corner so I could have this video
Yeah,
on.
some of your Instagram stories, I'm like, dang, she's swimming in it.
Yeah. It's so much fun though. So we're working on that. Our first drop is soon. So it's going to be more athleisure. Um, but I don't want to dive too far into it, but it's definitely something that I'm very excited for. And also, I would say, other than that, just my sponsorships in general, like I'm so excited to actually represent them. I feel like I got the opportunity, but until I am on stage and like really close to competing, I really do feel like I cannot wait to like again wear it as a badge of honor
Yes.
forward. So.
So I know you don't want to get too deep into it with the clothing line, but I'm curious, like, is it something you guys have been designing for a while? Like, why was it the dream? Like, what? Yeah.
Well, like with anything, like I'm sure like when you started the podcast, you learn by doing, right? So we
Mhm.
went through different processes of, ordering samples from manufacturers and it was just a grand time. Like obviously I'm going to put these things on and make sure that they're not going to like rip mid-set. So
Yeah.
we had a couple experiences with certain manufacturers where like I'm doing RDLs and like there goes the scrunch bum.
Yeah, not good.
Like a lot of stressful fun, which also peels back another layer of you too. But your question was like, what is it going to be? Is
Yeah,
that
like what inspired you to always want to do this?
I have always wanted to have some sort of creative outlet of sorts, and I just think that with the gym, with the audience that we already have, it's going to be even more so like um let's say rewarding to be able to see people, sporting something that we kind of put our blood, sweat, and tears into. So no, we weren't actually designing things from scratch. We did find manufacturers that we liked, and we made little tweaks here and there. So I just think more so than anything, the message and what the company represents is so much me and so much our community and Matt
Um,
and like our personalities and what we stand for that it's cool having something you believe in for
that's
yourself.
right. That's
So,
right.
yeah.
Yeah, well, that's gonna be so awesome and rewarding, that's for sure, once it goes live. And now let's get into your best advice. So, what is your best advice for somebody who has never competed before but wants to? And then your best advice for somebody who's on their road to pro?
For someone who's never competed and who wants to, I would definitely, you know what? I would say if this will weed them out if they really
Okay.
not. If social media didn't exist, my best piece of advice would be if social media didn't exist and you couldn't showcase it,
Mm.
would you still want to get on stage? Would you still want to put in all of that hard work, all of that dedication, all of it if you couldn't get the claps and the pats on the back? That will definitely let you know where your heart's at. And if that's a no, if you wouldn't be doing it, then girl, go do a photo shoot, go on a vacation, like do a mini cut, live your life.
Totally.
Um,
Totally agree.
If I was giving advice to anyone on their road to pro, I don't even want to sound cliche, so I'm not going to say have fun with it. But it's just to keep in mind that even at any level, even I'm sure Olympians, you're still going to get feedback. You're still going to have room for growth. And there's always going to be a need for improvement, no matter if it's minor or major. So learn to love the process, and the reward is that much more rewarding. And if it doesn't happen, again, this is a sport. You have to be a good sport about it, or else, like, if you can't take feedback, if you can't take criticism, if you can't wrap your mind around why it wasn't your day, then I would really look in, like, within, and see where you're limiting yourself from growth. Because truly, like, I would say the most elite athletes will take any criticism and make it their bitch.
No,
So
literally, yeah.
yeah, so um patience and put some respect on it.
Yeah, I love that. Those are two like prominent themes throughout what we've discussed too. So I feel like that's just a perfect way of putting it. And I want people to be able to connect with you, follow your journey, sign up for posing clinics when you guys have them. So how can people connect with you and work with you?
Yes. Okay. So you can always add me on socials, my personal page, and then the gym, I can go ahead and just like provide them for you, or how does that work?
Yeah, yeah. And we'll have it in the show notes page, but if you want to say it out loud so people can go right
Oh,
away.
yeah. My Instagram name, I will, let me go make sure I don't get this wrong on camera. Mine is Mahsa_Rogers Fit. That's my personal one. And then I'll go ahead and give the gym a shout out too. But we are going to have a separate page just for our apparel, but that's not out yet. So the gym is going to be, the name of the gym is Rep Republic. It stands for repetition. Obviously, repetition is everything in this sport, in life, and anything you want to get good at. So the gym name is Rep Republic underscore gym. So you can follow us on there and see all the inspiring things that we have going on. We do like Fit Tip Fridays. We have all sorts of pictures. All of our pictures are our members. So
So
we have
cool.
in-house photographer and videographer. It's a vibe. So
Wow, sounds like a bodybuilder gym.
it's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, that being said, like we'll put that in the show notes page, you guys. That's always on celestial.fit/podcast. If you are listening right away, this episode will be at the top of the page. If you're listening in the future, just scroll down to the category section, which is alphabetized. Not only will you see how you can connect with myself and Massa, but you're also going to see all of the show notes from a bulleted list of the topics we covered to like a back of the book style summary and episode timestamps so you can go back and listen to your favorite parts or share it with your friends, your family, your teammates. Let them know what resonated with you. And of course, if you're feeling so inspired, tag us, let us know what you think. And with that all being said, I hope you all have an amazing rest of your day, night, or morning, wherever you are in the world while you're listening to this episode. Just make it awesome.